My entitled mother said, "He's not my son, just a renter." Tried to sabotage my auto shop shift for her golden child. She got caught, banned, and billed. Hey Reddit, first time posting here and I think I got something you'll like. I'm a 20 male home from college for the summer, and the first thing waiting for me was a tenant rules summer session sign taped to my bedroom door. Between my mom's landlord energy, my 17 male golden athlete brother, and me trying to land a summer spot at a local auto shop, a small house rule turned into a much bigger line. Background. I already cover my own tuition, insurance, phone, and groceries. I track everything in a beat-up ledger because I'm a pen and paper guy. Mom's big on labels, signs, and room contributions. Think $300 per month with attempts to bolt on AC season and Wi-Fi fees. Dad's the quiet, fair one. Tools over speeches, wait for the click guy, and he knows the shop's boss from church league coffee, not for favors. My younger brother Chase is the family athlete with medals on the fridge and plenty of mom boost. He's bigger, louder, and gets the spotlight. We jab each other like normal brothers, but I'm the steady one who reads torque patterns and shows up on time. The family dynamic is basically, mom pushes control and appearances, dad enforces numbers and safety, Chase benefits from the hype, and I'm trying to keep boundaries while earning my own way. Back from college, I found a sign on my bedroom door. Tenant rules, summer session, quiet hours, one laundry load, label your food, wipe the mirror, pay room contribution by the 1st. Same old room, 8th grade poster, laundry soap smell, and the left blind still squeaking. I already cover tuition, insurance, my phone, and groceries. I track it all in a beat-up ledger with taped receipts. Green for paid, yellow for due. Not a spreadsheet guy, a don't lose the pen guy. I barely made it into the hallway when mom called from the kitchen, "Shoes off, please." Floors were mopped. It's funny because she says please, but it's not actually optional. I did the toe heel dance and nearly ate it on a new welcome mat that looks like it's yelling. Mom loves signs. If there was a sign that said no more signs, she would make 2 and put them right next to each other. Chase was at the table, spinning one of his medals like it's permanently attached to his hand. He's the younger brother, but he looks larger in every photo. Varsity jacket even when it's warm. Our fridge door is basically his trophy case. Newspaper clippings, tournament schedule, action shot with that face athletes do where they look like they're trying to scare gravity. He wins a lot. Mom posts about it a lot. I don't hate that because sometimes those posts turn into pancakes. He looked up just enough to say, "Yo, sup," I said, and flicked the medal so it spun the other way. He smirked and kept it going without missing a beat. That's basically our love language. Dad was at the sink messing with the coffee machine and gave me the tiny eyebrow raise that means, "I see you," and also, "Let's not poke the bear." He's not a speech guy. He's a bucket of tools guy. When I was 10, he taught me a torque wrench with exactly 4 words. Wait for the click. Life advice and tool tip, both. Mom, armed with tape and a bin labeled guest towels, mentioned Aunt Lena would take my room next weekend and reminded me about the room contribution. Paper only. I said fine. She smiled like she'd landed a lease. I dumped my duffel, taped a new tuition receipt into the ledger, underlined the due date, and stuck a note for the room money. The tape wrinkled. Fine. Mom knocked without waiting and poked her head in. "Hey, can you move your car? Chase needs the driveway for the sled." I said, "It's summer," and she said, "The sprint sled for training, don't be smart." Chase jogged by with a harness like he's part husky. "Timed runs, baby," he said, already sweating. Dad leaned in behind her with his mug that says, "World's okayest dad." I got it as a joke, and it became the uniform. "You settling in?" he asked. I nodded. He tipped his mug at my desk. "That your notebook?" I said yeah. He did the eyebrow thing again and said, "Good," like the notebook passed inspection. Mom did her standard laundry speech. No shop clothes with regular laundry, grease wrecks the washer, label your basket. Then she pivoted. Then Dad, "The boss at Henderson Auto needs a summer apprentice. Parts runs, tires, learn the ropes. Call after lunch, bring a resume. He wants someone who shows up." My brain buzzed. This actually fit. Mom worried out loud. "Auto shop is dirty," and floated a fantasy about free oil changes. Dad shut that down. Work is work. He'll learn. He'll get paid. It goes in the notebook. Mom crossed her arms and said, "If he's working, he can contribute more. A C is not cheap." I said, "Let me call the boss first. I don't even have the job yet." Dad set the mug on my dresser for 1 second and then picked it up because he's not out here looking to die. And he said, "Call him and move your car because Chase is about to drag half the driveway into the street." On the porch, I updated my resume. Library desk, babysitting, basic maintenance with Dad. Not fancy, but solid. Mom handed me a June envelope for the room contribution and restated the house rules. Chase yelled about unlabeled leftovers. I yelled back about containers. Dad called a ceasefire on noodles. I called the number Dad texted. It rang twice and the counter lady answered. I could hear the shop sounds in the background, that little air hose hiss and the printer clunk. I said, "Hi, my dad's friend, the boss at Henderson Auto, said to call about a summer spot. I can bring a resume." And she said, "Yep, I'm at the desk. Come by this afternoon with your paper. We'll have you fill out an application. The boss is tied up in Bay 1, but he'll peek later." And I said, "Cool, thanks, I'll be there," and hung up. Mom was already in the doorway like she could hear through drywall. "Well," she said. "They said come by," I said. "Bring my resume." She nodded and said, "Wear clean jeans. Don't embarrass me." And I said, "Do I need to label myself too?" And she ignored that. And Dad clapped my shoulder once, which is basically a paragraph for him. I printed my resume, packed the ledger, glanced at the tenant rules like they were a substitute teacher, and left for Henderson Auto. The lobby dinged, smelled like rubber and coffee. SW1's the front desk service writer, the clipboard guy who triages people and paper. SW2 runs the counter like air traffic control. Parts codes, safety, and zero drama. SW1 slid me an application. I listed the library job, babysitting, basic car stuff with Dad, and kept the skills simple. Customer service, inventory, safety. Mom and Chase floated in and sat close like assigned seats. Mom tried to fast-track Chase, he's very strong, and asked to skip the form. SW1 and SW2 kept it even. Everyone fills one. I wrote my name again in the top right corner of my own paper so I wouldn't say something dumb. There was a box for volunteer or other experience. I asked if the rec center gear hours count there. SW1 said, "Other is fine," like he'd stamped that answer 1,000 times. SW2 finished her call and turned her chair slightly. "We look at reliability, safety, and how you follow instructions. Strength helps, but it's not the only thing." She wasn't rude. She just said the words like they've been said 1,000 times. The boss appeared, asked if Mom was my mother. "Oh no," she said too fast. "He's just a renter." The boss ignored the theater. "Finish your forms. Skills and safety demo tomorrow. Jeans, closed-toe shoes. Bring your brain. We'll see how you handle a tire mount and a basic parts order." Chase sat up straight like he just heard his name on the loudspeaker. "Cool," he said, even though he hadn't finished writing his address. Mom tried to reset. "Can he meet you first?" "Just 5 minutes. He's got great presence." The boss pointed with his chin at the window. "Presence is nice. The customers never see you under a car." He nodded at SW1. "Put both forms on my desk when they're done." Then he went back to the bay like his time mattered, because it does. Mom returned to her chair and filled out maybe 2 lines. Then she leaned toward me. "Make sure you don't oversell anything," she said. "They'll smell it on you." I almost said, "Thanks." I brushed my teeth, but instead I wrote my emergency contact and folded the bottom so the ink wouldn't smear. Chase asked me without looking up, "What size socket is for lug nuts again?" And I said, "Depends on the car, genius." And he said, "I knew that," and then wrote something down anyway. Mom sighed like she was handling 2 toddlers, and neither one of us was her favorite. SW1 stapled my resume to the application and put it in a tray that said intake with a sticky note. SW2 checked my name against a post-it where she had scribbled "Dad called earlier, kid from church." She didn't say it, she just made a small check mark, and it made my chest feel less jumpy. The lobby printer did that whir and spit noise, and the radio in the back crackled, and a guy laughed once in Bay 3. Regular noises. I like regular noises. On the way out, Mom put a hand on my shoulder in that gentle way that is not gentle. "Wear the dark jeans tomorrow," she said. "The gray ones make you look short." I said, "Thanks, stylist," and she said, "I'm trying to help." And Chase added, "Don't forget deodorant," like he's a walking billboard for body spray. I thought about asking if I should label myself leftovers, do not eat, but I kept it to myself. In the car, I texted Dad, "Demo tomorrow morning, jeans, closed toe, no sandals, bring brain." And he sent back a thumbs up and then another text that said, "Proud of you," followed by a picture of a torque wrench. I laughed alone in the car, like a person who has a group chat with tools. Mom hyped Chase, Dad checked in with me. We traded dark jeans and bring your brain. Then Dad called time on the socket quiz. In my room, I looked at the tenant rules taped to the door and mentally added a new one underneath. Show up, shut up, learn. I set my alarm, put the medium notebook next to my keys, and tried to sleep without thinking about somebody asking me to explain torque patterns in front of a crowd. If that happens, I'm just going to say, wait for the click, and hope the universe knows what I mean. I laid out jeans that still looked like jeans, and not like I had been crawling under a fence, found my boots with actual tread, packed a small notebook just in case, and put the ledger next to my keys because if I don't see it, it doesn't exist. I set 2 alarms because my brain likes to betray me at 6 a.m., and then I tried to sleep. My brain played a loop of me dropping a wheel on my foot, and then an alternate loop where I torqued something to infinity, and the wrench just spun like a fidget toy. Eventually, I knocked out. Early to the shop. Safety brief, PPE, no phones, chalk wheels, jacket proper points, torque pattern, recheck on the ground, parts codes must match. You'll both do a tire mount / balance, a parts pull, and a brake gauge. Wrong is worse than slow. We started with the wheel, because it was staring at me like it wanted to be first. I rolled it to the machine and made sure the valve stem was where it needed to be. I checked the cones twice, because every video said, that's how you get a bad day. I mounted it, hit the buttons that always look like they do a secret third thing, watched the readout, added the weights where the little bars told me. It took longer than I wanted because I was double-checking my own hands. Chase finished his first and lifted it like a trophy. He said boom under his breath like he had an audience. I pulled pads and a cabin filter by exact line codes. No guessing. Chase dropped near matches. SW2 slid them back. Close isn't correct. Last was a quick brake measurement on a car that was already up. SW2 handed us each a gauge and said, tell me what you see. Left front. Chase went first and said a number with confidence that sounded like a right answer until she said, look again, and he squinted and corrected it. I put the gauge in and said the number slow. She nodded and said, and the spec? And I said the minimum for this model, which I had written on my notepad like a giant nerd. She nodded again. She had a way of nodding that made your shoulders sit lower. Somewhere in the middle of all that, Mom texted, how's it going? Remember deodorant? I put the phone back in my pocket because the whiteboard said no phones, and I like not being the reason a rule got invented. Results. I scored high on safety / accuracy. Chase on time. We hire careful first. Fast can be taught. He drew 2 quick columns on the whiteboard. My initials under safety / accuracy with checks. Chase under time with a check. Not personality, just the day's math. My chest finally unclenched. On the way out, Chase punched my shoulder lightly and said, you're such a Boy Scout. And I said, yeah, and you're the guy sprinting to a red light. And he laughed for real. Not the fake kind he saves for Mom's friends. In the car, I texted Dad, went okay. I wasn't the slowest turtle. He sent back a wrench emoji and then, proud of you, and then lunch on me if you don't blow your per diem on snacks. I don't have a per diem. He knows that. It made me laugh anyway. At home, the QR envelope was still on my desk like a little square threat. Mom had added a sticky note that said, easier this way, with a smiley face that looked tired. I put it under my ledger because my ledger is petty and likes to sit on things. I took a shower, put the safety glasses on my desk like a trophy, and flopped on the bed. I could hear Mom telling someone on the phone that Chase did amazing, and they could tell he belongs around machines. And I could hear Dad say in the background, they said both boys did fine, which feels like a sentence worth keeping. Before I knocked out, I checked the messages one more time and saw the one from SW2. Prelim good. If we call, bring direct deposit information. First pay is next Friday. I stared at the words first pay and felt that weird little electricity you get when something might actually work. My brain tried to jump ahead to money and envelopes and Mom's math games, but I pulled it back to one sentence. Show up, shut up, learn. Then I slept at a weird angle like a person who used muscles he forgot he had. Ixi, SW2 called, paid 24-hour trial, then Saturdays plus a weekday. Bring direct deposit information. Day 1, parts runs, labeling, rags that aren't crispy, 2 balanced wheels, lots of questions. The boss said one word, good, and split his sandwich. Hours offered. First paycheck hit. Not a fortune, just not zero. I taped the stub into the ledger and marked, paid $300 room contribution. When I got home, there was a new piece of paper taped to my door with the same bold font Mom uses when she's serious about nonsense. It said, updated house contributions, effective immediately. Underneath was the original $300 room thing, then utilities surcharge, AC season, $120, then Wi-Fi bandwidth fee, $45, and household overhead $60. And just for fun, family phone plan $70. I stood there and read it twice because I thought maybe it morphed if you stare too long. I took the paper downstairs like I was returning a library book that had opinions. Mom was in the kitchen labeling a Tupperware that was already labeled because even labels get labels here. I said, I don't even use the family plan. I'm on my own. She said, then we'll credit that line. But the point is, you can't just live here for free now that you're making money. Electric is up, and the grocery cart doesn't fill itself. And Chase has regionals. From the living room, Chase yelled, regionals! Like he was trying to summon a sponsor. I said, tournaments aren't utilities. Mom did the tight smile you see on anchors when the teleprompter breaks. Dad said it flat. $300 for the room. Utilities when the bill hits, no auto debits. Her brake light came on. She stormed in, demanding a family discount and for me to just fix it. We inspected. Pads, rotors, sticky caliper. Printed the estimate. She asked to dock my paycheck. SW2 and the boss. We don't do discounts and we don't garnish wages. She paid. She swiped her card in tiny, angry swipes until the terminal chirped approval. Quick pause, fellas. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Thanks so much for your support. All right, back to the drama. On the way out, she said, thank you, but the letters were outnumbered by the tone. Then she looked at me and did the I'm not smiling, but my lips are technically moving upward face and said, I expect you to be around if something feels wrong later. I said, if something feels wrong, bring it back. The shop stands behind it. She didn't like hearing that I wasn't going to be her personal pit crew, but she also didn't argue because the car wasn't squealing anymore. She texted for my debit card to set autopay. I said no. We agreed. Dad put the utility bill on the table, circled my share. I paid room in an envelope. No late fees here, he said. Paper beats Portal. I went upstairs and tried to watch a video about caliper rebuilds and fell asleep halfway with my phone trying to slide off my face. My arm ached in that satisfying way where your body goes, we did stuff. Somewhere between awake and knocked out, I had this dumb thought that the yellow line on the shop floor wasn't like the tape in a gym. It was a real line, the kind that keeps people from getting hurt. I didn't know it yet, but we were about to find out exactly how real. Busy Tuesday. Bay 1 check engine, Bay 3 mystery squeak, me in Bay 2. Rotate, quick brake check, parts run. Stand set, wheels off, road test done. Parked, nose out, key in lockbox, hood down. Jogged for a forgotten filter. Came back to the hood up, fender cover wrong, handbag on the bumper. Mom at the battery, fingers on the negative clamp. Just making sure, you're fast, she said. I'm slow on purpose. Stayed calm. No startling around electricity. You can't be back here. She shrugged. Relax, I'm your mother. Actually, he's just a renter. Dash chime. Training kicks in. Stop work, make safe, notify, document. I paused the bay, covered the fender, lifted the cap. The negative clamp wasn't bumped. It was loosened. I didn't touch it further, stepped behind the yellow line and called it SW2, unauthorized person in Bay 2, possible tamper. Mom laughed a little. That bright laugh she uses when she's saying something that is not funny. A camera? Really? I was tightening it, she said, which is definitely not how counterclockwise works. I could feel my face going thermometer red, but not from embarrassment this time. Just a kind of quiet wow. SW2 pointed, palm down, toward the lobby area and said, please wait on the other side of the line. Mom goes, I'm his mother, again, then catches herself mid-sentence like she's trying on different outfits. Well, he's just a renter, but I have a right to check my own car. The boss didn't bother with a speech. He said, no, you don't. And then to me, tools down, log it. SW1 got the footage up on the lobby screen. It's mounted above the snack shelf that no one touches because those chips are probably as old as me. The angle is exactly what you'd hope for if you were making a training video. Yellow line, post, my bay, the edge of the hood, and Mom stepping under the chain like it's a fancy necklace she gets to wear. It shows her flip the plastic cap, turn the clamp counterclockwise, take her hand off, look toward the door, and then put the cap back bent. There's no audio because the universe was kind. You don't need it. Somebody must have texted Dad, or maybe he was already nearby because I felt him before I saw him. He was by the little coffee pump in the lobby watching the screen with his jaw doing that thing where it grinds quietly. He said, mostly to the air, that's loosening. And the room heard it. Mom said, I was making sure nothing was loose. and then did that open-handed shrug that says, I'm as surprised as you are. The boss said, here's the procedure. Not looking at her, just the shop. We pause, we log, we reinspect, we retest. We bill for the diagnostic time caused by the interference. We do not let customers into bays. Ever. I took photos like it was a crime scene, because for my paperwork it kind of is. Clamp position, cap flipped wrong. The sign that says authorized personnel only, the yellow line. I wrote the timestamp and what I saw. SW2 read the time off the screen, calm as a metronome. Mom went, this is ridiculous. I was helping. You should be thankful. And then said to me in that low tone that is worse than yelling, you always fall apart when people are watching, which is a crazy sentence to say 2 feet from a camera. The boss turned toward her finally. Zero heat, all rules. Ma'am, I'm issuing a trespass from the work area for you. You are not allowed past the lobby line now or any other day. If you cross it again after this warning, we will stop work and call it in. We'll finish the car after the reinspection, and you'll see a diagnostic line item for the time we lost. That's policy. She said, you can't charge me for a minute. And he said, it's going to be more than a minute. And yes, we can. Safety checks aren't free. We cleared the bay like the manual says. I reset the clamp with a torque that is basically handshake firm, not gorilla. I checked resting voltage, checked charging voltage, scanned for any codes because lazy voltage can make modules throw a tantrum later. Everything read like it should, which is the point of checking. I asked SW2 to eyeball my notes and she initialed them. Then I did the road test again. No weird lights, no drama. Back in the lobby, SW1 printed a fresh estimate that included post-incident diagnostic and reinspection typed plain as day. Mom stared at that line like it insulted the family tree. She said, just take it out of his check. That's fair. And SW2 said, we can't and won't take money out of his paycheck for someone else's bill. And the boss added, that's not legal without a court order or the employee agreeing, and I'm not asking him to agree. Dad finally stepped closer and used his voice like a tool he doesn't take out often. Pay the bill, he said. Not loud. Just the kind of speaking that makes a thing true. Mom swiped. The card reader did its little happy beep because machines don't care about vibes. SW1 stapled the receipt and handed it over. Mom took it like it might bite. She looked at me and said, you made this harder than it needed to be. And I said, I followed the rules so nobody gets hurt. And I swear even the radio turned down for that one. The boss looked at me and just said, good, the same way he did with that sandwich on day 1. And it landed even heavier this time. SW2 said, textbook. And that word hit the weird part of my chest that collects all the times I felt like I was the extra chair at a table. Dad clapped my shoulder once. It wasn't for show. It was that thing he does when he means it. Mom walked to the door like the floor offended her. And on the way out, the boss said, not cruel, just the same voice he uses when he says, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Reminder, no customers beyond the yellow line. That includes family. She didn't respond. The door did the ding on her way out, and then the shop sound came back like someone unmuted regular life. I reset the bay. The boss confirmed my hours. A small click in my head, like a torque wrench at spec. Translation. The incident didn't put my schedule at risk. If anything, following the book made my footing better. On break, I drank water like it was a job and stared at the yellow line for a second. It's paint, but it's also not. It's a fence for people who like their fingers. I texted Dad, thanks, because words are weird in person sometimes. He sent back, proud of you, and then a photo of the fridge at home, where he'd taped the actual utility bill with my share circled, which made me laugh because that man loves a circle. The rest of the day was normal. Bay 3 found the squeak. The new pads were glazing because someone got excited. Bay 1 finished a sensor swap. I did a parts run and didn't get lost, which I'm putting on my resume even if no one asks. Before I clocked out, SW2 said, expect a letter to go to your mom, certified, restricting work area access. We do it for everyone after something like this. It's boring paperwork, but that's what keeps the shop calm. It sounded like justice, but quiet. The good kind. Dinner was calm. Dad drafted a house agreement. SW2 texted, good work, keep notes, and said a certified notice would follow. I put the phone face down and ate pasta that tasted a lot like normal. I can live with normal. I fell asleep thinking about lines that matter. Shop paint, not bedroom signs. The letter would make our house rules real. A certified letter banned Mom from the bays and logged the incident with video. Dad filed it in the CAR folder. In a sleeve, obviously. Dad laid out 2 options. Family rules, $300 plus actual utilities, no extras, or true renter rules for everyone. Mom signed the first. Dad. Then stop calling him a renter. Option B wasn't a threat. It was symmetry. If I'm a renter on paper, then everyone's a renter on paper, including the people who like calling me one. I brought my ledger to the table when the utility bill came in. Dad circled the total, wrote my share next to it, and pushed the calculator toward me purely for show because the math was easy. I put my part on the table, we stapled the receipt to the bill, and Dad filed it in the kitchen folder like we were running a tiny boring bank. Mom tried once with, "There's also overhead," and Dad said, "Overhead is not a line item," without looking up. She folded her arms and watched the stapler like it was playing her favorite show, and she'd lost the remote. Mom pushed for autopay. We said no. The bank added alerts and blocked unauthorized pulls. There's a grown-up button for that. Numbers, not vibes. She tried the autopay angle again after the letter. New portal, same grab. We drew the same boundary, this time with a banker as witness. Now, if any mystery draft tries to climb in the window, my phone yells first and the bank locks the latch. Back at the house, Mom had her laptop open, like she was about to do taxes on my soul. Dad slid the signed house agreement across the table like a ref sliding a puck. "This is how we do it now," he said. Mom said nothing for a beat. Then she said, "Fine," like the word owed her rent. Dad added, "Plain, if you go back to he's a renter, you will be paying rent too. Option B is sitting right there." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He tapped the paper once with the pen and went to change a light bulb like timing was part of the move. I still had one more piece for the shop. SW2 told me they attach acknowledgments to customer files after a mess like this. I asked Mom to send a simple email that said, "I crossed into the work area and I won't do that again." Nothing big, just words in a row that meant something. She argued with air for 2 minutes, then typed it and hit send. SW2 replied, "Received," and added "lobby only" in the note. It felt weirdly manageable, like there was a box around the chaos now, and the box had a label. Chase owned the lobby smirk, picked up a reffing gig to cover his travel, and asked me to teach star pattern and break feel. Not a speech, real accountability. Dinner that night was quiet in a better way. Mom put food out like normal. No speech, no new envelopes, no QR codes with a smiley face. Dad taped the house agreement to the side of the fridge in a clear sleeve, of course, next to the magnetic clip that holds the utility bill until it gets stapled. He wrote bills plus receipts on the kitchen folder like we were opening a tiny museum for grown-up stuff. Mom rolled her eyes a little at the sleeve, and Dad said, "Organization is free," which is the most Dad sentence after measure twice. Before bed, I checked my phone and had a short email from SW2 that said, "FYI, notice mailed, file note updated. Thanks for staying by the book." I don't know, man. Getting thanked for not being chaos is my new favorite thing. My paycheck settled in and I moved some to savings, some to the if the car coughs pile, and put a sticky note under my ledger that said, "Room 300 by 7/1. Utilities on bill, no extras." I like when the note agrees with the paper on the fridge. Gives me a weird peace, like lining up sockets in the tray, so the 10mm can't run away. The next day, Chase taped a flyer to the corkboard by the garage door. Youth soccer ref training, Saturdays, with a big circle around the time. He dropped a 10 on the counter under a magnet and wrote on a scrap, "Wi-Fi cookies tax," which made no sense and also made me laugh, and then he crossed it out and wrote, "I watched film all week, I'll chip in when the bill comes." See? Dad saw it and didn't say anything. Just tapped the scrap once with his finger, like the note had a heartbeat. Mom stayed in her lane for a stretch, which was honestly the biggest shock of all. She still had her tone sometimes, and sometimes you could see her trying to grab a lever that wasn't there anymore, but the levers were gone. If renter started to form on her mouth, it didn't make it all the way out. Twice she half said it, and Dad just said "son" once, normal volume, and finished loading the dishwasher. The house felt not perfect, just less like walking around a do-not-touch museum. I could move without thinking I owed a toll. At the shop, SW1 put a little laminated card on the counter that matched the letterhead tone. "We hire performance and protect safety. No interference. Same rate for everyone." Customers read it and nodded because adults love signs when the signs make sense. The boss tossed me a set of caliper seals in a bag and said, "You ever rebuild one?" And I said, "Not yet," and he said, "You will." I went to Bay 3 with a grin I tried to stuff back into my face so I wouldn't look like a Labrador. Lines that help. Shop yellow keeps fingers. Fridge rules keep money honest. The bedroom sign can stay. It doesn't mean what it used to. Same paint, different purpose. The shop line keeps you alive. The fridge line keeps us fair. The door sign was just volume. We turned it down. Driveway lesson. Chocks, jack stands, slow and steady. Lift at the right points, set the stands, verify the shake. Fear is free and smart. Chase hand-snugged, torqued in a star, counted clicks, and caught the one he missed. That's the point. Don't pretend. Fix it. Chase took the wrench like it might judge him. He apologized for riding shotgun while Mom ran me over, promised to handle his own costs, and we sealed lessons for snacks. Simple, solid. Dad taped the house agreement to the fridge, filed bills under no extras, and asked about my first caliper rebuild. I told him it clicked. I logged house payments next to shop notes, tidy columns, no fake fees. When late fee tried to sneak back, I pointed at the agreement. Dropped. She didn't apologize. She's not the apologizing type. She just walked away and didn't restart, and I'll take that over a speech any day. The boss tossed me another caliper. Don't launch the dust boot. I did fine on my second try. The click of the torque wrench keeps visiting my head sometimes. Like a notification, but in a good way. Mom came in once for wiper blades and stayed on the lobby side like the floor would shock her if she tried a toe over the line. She asked SW1 a question about sizes, and he showed her the book instead of yelling into a bay, and she said thank you in a voice that wasn't made of knives. She paid the listed price and left. It felt like watching a dog learn not to steal socks. A tiny miracle that made everything else less annoying. He stuck with reffing, even with sideline noise, and chipped in on Wi-Fi and utilities without speeches. The house breathed easier. Payday. Some to savings, some to the car coughs fund, the rest to life. I dropped the room envelope by the kitchen folder. No extras. I left the tenant rules on my door. They're just paper now. The real rules are Dad's handwriting on the fridge and the shop's boring signs. Show up, shut up, learn. If landlord energy returns, option B is laminated.